What's up, everybody?
Welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast, where we take your mind a mile higher. Today on episode 80, we're going to be talking about the Hollywood Ripper case, or the case of Michael Gargiulo, which is a very recent case that's still actually kind of in the end works here, the sentencing stage and stuff. So we're going to be talking about that. But before we get into that, we are also going to be doing an entire segment on the Amazon rainforest fire. We wanted to block off our intro news topics section for that
because it's only the most important thing going on right now in the world.
They're barely covering it on the news and stuff. It's really sad.
It's extremely sad. But before we start talking about that, we just want to thank today's sponsors, Lola, Third Love, Upstart, Bombus, and Embark for their continued support of the show. We also wanted to quickly talk to you guys a little bit about hemp bombs because they got these CBD suckers, man, that are amazing.
We're enjoying them today.
40 milligrams per sucker.
New. 40 milligrams per sucker is a lot. It's a lollipop.
That'd be like a great mid workday treat right there.
I am having the watermelon flavor. Janelle's got the pink lemonade. Josh has got the green apple.
Yeah, and they also came out with these CBD dog biscuits, guys, that use broad spectrum CBD, which is really great for your pets as well as humans for natural pain relief, hip and joint support, helps with stress and anxiety for pets. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, the day that we're filming this is National Dog Day, so we thought we'd celebrate.
Yeah, seriously.
So definitely check that out and use the code MILEHIGHER for 20% off at hempbombs.com.
Hell yeah. All right, so the Amazon is on fire, guys. As you probably know.
Bad.
It's extremely bad. And the pictures that are coming out are honestly, it makes me a little bit sad to see, the rainforest just burning to the ground, it seems like. Just complete devastation. I mean, the Amazon rainforest is one of the the oldest living organisms on the planet. It's been around for like 55 million years. I mean, who really knows when it, even started, but it's been around a
millions and millions of
really
years.
long time. And it's truly an amazing thing that we have on this planet.
And to think that this is, human has a bunch of different factors could have possibly contributed to this.
Absolutely.
But it's all back to humans at the end of the day. And it's so sad to think that, this rainforest has been around for a lot longer than we have been around.
Oh, yeah.
And then, the short blip that humanity has been on the planet, we have
how much destruction,
fucked it up so bad. It's really so bad. Sad. It's absolutely devastating.
So here's just a couple interesting things about the Amazon. So the Amazon basin encompasses 2.7 million square miles, and 2.1 million square miles are covered by the rainforest. So actually covered where you can't even see the ground, which is insane. And what's really interesting about this is that the covered portion, the majority of it, like 2/3 of it, is completely unstudied and unexplored for the most part. Like we have no idea.
The ocean.
It's exactly like the ocean. We there's still so much mystery surrounding the Amazon rainforest that who knows what could be hiding in there, and who knows what, sorts of animals and creatures and even people, indigenous people and tribes that could be there that we have no idea about and no clue about. The entire area is actually the size of the Indian subcontinent. When you think about that, this is multiple countries. We're talking India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, among others. And it's a huge, huge piece of land. Yeah, it's crazy. Not only that, it's obviously home to the largest collection of living plants and animal species in the world. It's probably the biodiversity there is just insane.
Yeah.
They're discovering new species all the time.
There's also just so many different species of plants too. We get a lot of our medications from the plants there and stuff. This is not good for science either. Just the amount of, these beautiful, unique, rare plants that are just being destroyed along with all these animals.
Right, exactly. It's really horrible to think about. It's one thing to just see pictures of the rainforest burning down, but it's another to think about what's it actually like in there, inside the rainforest as it's burning down. It must be
just terrifying.
And all these animals there that are having to flee or just dying. But specifically, the majority of the Amazon is in Brazil. And there's actually between 280,000 and 350,000 indigenous people, which 180,000 of them live traditionally. So they live the way they've lived for hundreds or potentially thousands of years. Off of the actual forest itself. So it's really crazy. And you've probably heard the Amazon being referred to as the Earth's lungs, because 20% of our oxygen, 20% comes from
a lot.
The Amazon.
I've heard as high as 30.
It could be more. It probably was more at one time. If you think about, we've already destroyed, I think, 17% of the Amazon, the actual forest itself, because we're cutting trees down and, deforestation and all that is playing a major part in the destruction of it, which is solely on us as humans, like we're cutting it down. So yeah, to lose that is just crazy. But what's going on right now is that there's actually a record number of fires in the forest right now. Almost 73,000 fires have been detected, which is an 83% increase from 2018. That's insane if you think about it.
That's a huge
Clearly
increase.
Something's majorly wrong there.
And I've seen so many people arguing like on social media, like, well, there's always fires in the Amazon.
Which is true. There is always fires in the Amazon.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's
not
a
to
forest,
this extent.
But up 83%.
Oh my
and that's
God.
all just natural. It's either, I mean, you could make the argument that, this is just natural. If that's the case, then climate change is way worse than we even think. Like if that's really if it's all purely
or there's
natural,
a possibility that some of it's not natural, that some of this was purposely set, which we're going to get into now.
Right. What was crazy though is there's this picture, like last week, I think it was, there was so much smoke that it actually blew like 1,700 miles over to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And it was like 3 p.m. The sky was completely dark.
Wow.
Because of all the smoke, like completely blacked out. It's crazy. Look at that. It's just insane. It looks like it's
nighttime. It looks like a storm.
And then the rainwater. The rainwater's like black from the smoke.
Oh, that's so scary and sad.
It's really crazy. So you've probably seen like hashtags on Twitter, like pray for Amazonas and different states in Brazil and things like that. And that's because there's fires raging across multiple states there. Not only Amazonas, there's Rondônia, Para, and Mato Grosso that have been going on, raging for days now. The agencies say that the fires are rare in the Amazon region for much of the year. Because usually, I mean, like we said, there's natural fires, but usually it's wet enough that it's only, the fires only last for a month or two during the dry season. And then, everything goes out as the rain comes and things like that. But we're seeing, more droughts, more intense heat and things like that, and less precipitation.
We're feeling the effects of climate change.
And so is the Amazon. So why is it burning? Like what's actually going on there? And one of the things is deforestation that has attributed to it because we're, cutting it down. And not only that, there's tons of like dead brush and things like that. Not only are the plants not getting as much water,
it's just dry,
but it's just
sitting
dry
there in the bottom of the floor.
Well, and you think about it too, like they're cutting down, the forest. There's going to be tons of scraps and things like that are left over that are just like super flammable.
Well, not only that, but they literally start fires often, which is legal in most cases, to clear out the land for farming and ranching.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
That's so crazy. So that's one way that you can, fight back against this is to cut beef out of your diet if you can, or at least reduce it. I mean, I think everyone can do what they can. I kind of talked about this last week, but I think it's going to take everyone kind of looking at their lives and seeing where they can make a change and how they can improve. Like, it's not going to be something over the night you go vegan, but you have to look at this stuff. I mean, it can't go on like this forever. We can't sustainably survive unless people change their ways. It's going to have to happen whether you choose to or not. It will happen.
Well, yeah. And I mean, if we lose the Amazon, we're going to be in really bad shape.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the effects of it, not only that, but like a lot of the rainfall and things like that come from the Amazon for the rest of South America, even, and perhaps like globally. Like we're going to see a major decrease in precipitation and obviously oxygen as well. So yeah, they're clearing the land for cattle farms and ranching and things like that. But not only that, they're actually starting to do palm oil in the Amazon, which is
that's a big part of it
really
too.
bad because that's a huge problem in like Indonesia and Southwest or Southeast Asia as well. They do a lot of palm oil plantations there, which if you don't know what palm oil is, it's also known as vegetable oil. It's made from the pulp of the fruit found in oil palms. And what's crazy about palm oil is that it's literally in there's definitely a food that we all eat pretty much.
Yeah.
And
damn, I didn't know the extent of palm oil.
Yeah, it's really bad. I mean,
wow. Yeah. Trix, Cheerios, Skittles,
Lay's potato chips,
Ready Whip,
tons of stuff. Lots of snack
Kit Kat,
foods.
Crunch, Skippy, all junk food. It looks like palm oil is a major junk food, pretty much. Cool Whip, peanut butter cups, Nesquik,
I think
Nutella.
it's anything that's processed, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much. It's a
well,
huge
that makes
list
sense,
of brands.
So even when you're just buying vegetable oil from the store, a bottle of it, that's palm oil?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's incredibly sad.
Yeah, it's
So
really
I feel
crazy.
like most people just don't even know these things. Like it's going to be a matter of educating people on this.
Well, yeah, and I mean, these major brands don't want you to know about this either. You know?
No, of course not.
Like, look at all the General Mills and all of the big
Mhm.
brands that, you know, use products with palm oil.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you know, try to cut back if you can on some of this stuff, just
it's
for
good
the
to just
sake
be
of it.
aware of it. Definitely cut back.
Because, I mean, it's all supply and demand, right? Like, same
Yeah.
thing with cattle and things like that. Is the demand's there, they're going to continue, you know, deforesting everything.
It's going to
and
be the
creating more.
consumers wanting change, just like we talked about last week with plastic alternatives. It's going to be the same type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the same thing for any other issues we have in the world right now. It's going to be up to us to fight back and to really initiate that change in our society, I feel like. But not only that, they're like cutting down the forest for lumber still. Paper is a big one.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we're still using paper
unneeded.
and things like that is just stupid.
So many medical offices are still using like paper records and stuff. It's ridiculous.
I always find it so dumb. It's like just electronically send things now. Like you can e-sign everything. Like why do you need to print out papers and have people
I know. We should be using our technology more to help us become more sustainable.
Totally. And we're trying to, but not everybody's on board. That's the thing is like, you know, a lot of people or a lot of companies, things like that, been around for a while, don't yet subscribe to that. But the other big thing with this whole Amazon fire story is the president of Brazil.
Yes.
His name is really crazy to pronounce. So
Jair.
It's like Jair Bolsonaro. And he's been accused of harming the Amazon rainforests and indigenous peoples in order to benefit loggers, miners, and farmers who helped get him elected.
Wow. Sounds a lot like American politics.
Mm-hmm. Which there was like, you know, some people compare him to like Trump. He's like kind of a right-wing individual, kind of denies climate.
Yeah, their government
doesn't
their current administration doesn't believe in climate change. That's a real shame.
And just like Trump cutting, you know, the environmental protection agencies and things like that are fighting to save the rainforest and the natural resources that Brazil has. And he actually cut the budget of the Environmental Enforcement Agency by 23 million, which is a lot of money for them. And if you think about it, you know, the amount of illegal deforestation that's happening is likely increased because of that. So, you know, even though Brazil has in the past come out and said that they want to reduce and try to preserve the environment as much as they can, but that's just not happening. It seems like. And they're not, I mean, and you know, there's not a lot of money going into putting these fires out. That's like the other thing is like, they're not doing as much as they could to stop it from burning.
It's just so shocking. What do they think this is?
I don't know, man.
It doesn't matter?
I don't know. I don't know what they think, to be honest, like that the force is just going to like return, which I mean, to some extent,
I think the truth is they don't think anything. They know the truth. They're just greedy. And that's all they care about is money. So many people in this world don't care about the environment. They just don't care. Someone else's problem. Eventually, like I'll be dead before anything bad enough happens. I think that's the outlook of a lot of people and a lot of administrations around the world. It's really sad.
That will just, you know, use these natural resources that are there and then deal with the repercussions later.
Well, clearly, I mean, what's being done? No one's taking this seriously. We don't have much more time to, you know, let this continue on like this.
No.
We definitely don't have time for people who don't even believe it's happening. It sounds like their whole administration over there doesn't even believe that climate change is making the fires worse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we have that kind of issue, we're really screwed. When the people over there don't even believe it.
Yeah, what do you do? I mean,
what do you do?
It's a really tough one, man. I mean, it's crazy to me that, you know, people will be all up in arms and, you know, lots of celebrities and things like that, you know, trying to save the Notre Dame Cathedral, which I mean, yeah, that's great. We should preserve historical landmarks, but
it was such a thing. It was this big major
huge
news
thing.
There were so many people making social media posts or posting a picture of them in front of it,
video
or something
live on TV all day.
Yeah, and then I've seen barely anyone talking about the Amazon.
Yeah, and the news
like
cycle,
some of my favorite creators and stuff, like I've been so disappointed I haven't seen anyone talking about it. And that's the most important thing is like, I think if you have any type of platform, you need to be talking about this stuff. This is so fucking vitally important, and it's going to take people learning about it, explaining why this is happening and how you can help, and understanding the issue. That's what it's going to be at the core for us to move forward. And if we just don't even talk about it, we're not even covering it on our mainstream media,
Goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Right.
Go about their daily life.
You talk to people that aren't even on the internet, like older people in your lives that are just watching the mainstream. They don't even know this is going on or the extent
of the destruction. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, really unfortunate.
And I think a lot of people just fail to acknowledge that the climate issues are all like a chain reaction. If there's one thing that is really wrong, then eventually everything's going to be really wrong.
It's called an ecosystem. It's a system. It all works together. If there's one cog not working in the system, the rest of it's going to be fucked up.
Right. Sea levels rise, the forest burns down, and not only that, the amount of carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide that's being released in the atmosphere is insane. The air around there is toxic now, and all the animals breathing in all of that and stuff. It's just sad. It's like crazy that I think I even read an article actually that was kind of cool that how do you fight a fire like that? You got to get big ass airplanes that can carry a bunch of
water,
fire retardant and all that kind of stuff, and dump it out over there. And there's a plane from Colorado Springs that's actually flying down there to help out. I forget who owns it. I think it's one of the fire departments or something is actually sending their plane down there to help fight it. And that's what's crazy is it takes other countries getting involved with Brazil to do something about this. Because it's not like Brazil just owns the rainforest and they can do whatever they want with it. Like the rainforest is a part of planet Earth, and we're all a part of this planet, and just because one government is not doing something about it doesn't mean that we should all just sit back and be like, oh, that's their problem,
Yeah. If anything, we should step up even more to make up for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like any other problems in the world. It's like, at what point is it time to get involved in order to, for the betterment of all people? I feel like we got to stop looking at all of us as all these like different little, societies and things like that.
Compartmentalized countries.
Yeah. Like there's all these barriers and like, oh, it's your government.
We're so obsessed with that. What's different between us all? Why? How are we all separate? Borders, laws, like when we're all one race. We really don't have that mindset towards. It doesn't seem like that's how we are at all.
Yeah, especially
if we're going to continue into the future. It seems like we're going to have to come together as a human race if we have any hope for this planet. But it seems like an impossible task.
Yeah, I saw a really great quote about the reality of the situation right now. It was like, the Earth isn't dying; it's being killed.
Yeah. Yes. That's a great point. It's not dying. It's not too late. It's being killed.
It's being killed. That's the thing is like that because whoever sent this to me, shout out to you, but someone sent me an article about actually the ozone is actually repairing itself. There's a giant hole in the ozone layer. It's actually starting to repair itself.
Yeah.
So Mother Earth knows how to heal itself, and it knows how to reverse a lot of it. But, it can only fight against us for so long before we overpower it to an extent where it makes this planet totally unlivable, and we're forced to abandon it or die pretty much. So that's the severity of the situation.
Yeah, it is.
The Earth is being killed, and we need to do something about it. And
it is no longer acceptable to just say la 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 la, I don't want to hear about this because it stresses me out. And that is such a poor way to look at things. I hope everyone tries to take this stuff more seriously and face it head on. Because yes, you have to make a lot of lifestyle changes. Yes, you have to look at what you're doing wrong and you might feel guilty about it, but you have to start looking, because if we don't have a future. Like there is no option where we just continue to ignore this and live on as normal. Eventually this will catch up to us and we will pay the price, or our children will pay the price.
100%. I mean, we're almost certain at this point, like science is telling us the facts are that our planet is going to radically change in all of our lifetimes. And the rate at which everything is melting and being destroyed is just continuing to ramp up and accelerating all of this, destruction of the planet. And it's just like, if you can just make one little change in your life that might benefit, the rest.
Or one little change a week. Yeah. That's what I've been trying to do is look at one thing I can do, try. It's so overwhelming, and it's easy to just be like, well, I just clearly suck at this, so I'm just going to whatever. I'm just
out of sight,
it's
out
probably
of mind.
Too late anyway, whatever, have that mindset. You can't do that. You just have to face it head on and take it little steps at a time, because over time, those steps will turn into a whole lot that you're doing compared to other people. And, it just takes time to learn and to
Right.
think. A lot of the things you are doing that are impacting the environment, you don't even realize you're doing wrong. Or
Yeah.
you're not thinking about them, or you just aren't educated about them.
Yeah.
So it's
Get
going
woke to the issues, man.
Yeah. It's all about education and slowly
And
trying
then
to do the best you can.
Right. And just being conscious in your day-to-day life.
And I think another thing I wanted to say is when you go and spread this information or you try to tell people, try not to be like aggressive about it, because I think that's really off-putting.
Totally.
And it makes people not want to do anything when they're just being yelled at or lectured. Like educate, there's a difference between lecturing someone and educating them. And it can make the difference for our environment big time if you approach people in a kind way and you don't like just say, I'm just so much better than everyone else and everyone else sucks at, a lot of people have a long way to go.
That's the thing though. Even just acknowledging that everyone starts somewhere.
Yes.
Right.
I think that's a huge part of it.
That's the main thing. Step one,
somewhere.
Start from somewhere, and work your way up to being more eco-conscious and things like that. Like we're nowhere near perfect or like some like elite sustainability people, like
not
to
even
a level
close.
Where, oh my God.
We have so much to do.
So much work to do.
We've made some changes though. We've made some positive changes in our lives that I'm proud of, but we still have more work to do. And that's how kind of where everyone I think should be at.
Totally. And like I love to call out some celebrities like Leo, for example, Leonardo DiCaprio, like not only did he share an image of a fake image of the Amazon burning, not a fake image, but it's a stock image from 2003 from a photographer that actually died. And he shared that because it was just kind of going viral and he was just kind of reposting what all the other celebrities were posting. It's just like, if you're going to champion this cause, like at least get the facts right and get, share real legitimate stuff. Like, and then look at your own life, Leo, like is he living in like total sustainability? Even though he could, that's the thing is you have all this money.
He could share it too.
Yeah. Share it too.
But I mean he's doing more than most people. Yeah. Like sometimes we tend to go after the people who are doing something because it's like you could be doing more, but like at least he's doing something. There's so many celebrities that say jack shit, influencers who don't ever talk about the environment, who don't care, who don't spread the information, At least he's been a huge monumental part of getting the word out there.
It's true.
So it's pretty disappointing he shared a wrong picture.
Not
but
to
hey,
shame on him.
we all do stuff like that. We all, in this age of social media, you see something going viral, you believe it's real and you repost it. It's really stupid, but you'd think if he's like really making this his thing, he'd kind of have a team that's like checking over everything he posts.
Yeah, or he just knows himself. He should be pretty knowledgeable at this point.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of stuff.
How is he supposed to know the difference between an old photo and a new photo?
Yeah, I guess if there's art, you assume something that's viral
it might be
true.
Yeah, I do. I definitely have reposted viral images. Not every image I have posted, I have gone through and made sure that it's new. And, it's the internet. It's kind of hard. But, at least he's doing something. At least he's posting about it. It's more than 99% of celebrities can say. At least he made a post about it.
And acknowledges the problem.
Yeah.
So like, what can we do about it? What can you do, in addition to not only like making changes in your daily life? Obviously you can donate to various organizations that are doing, good work as far as protecting the rainforest as well as the indigenous people. That's a huge part of this too. Is like we are destroying ancestral lands that have been owned by these indigenous people that live there, that many of them are, uncontacted by modern civilization, which is just crazy to think about. There's literally like ancient cultures that have been there for thousands of years, potentially living in the Amazon.
And one whole other aspect we wanted to talk about with this is there's kind of a whole conspiracy going on with this as well, which we're not really sure. It's hard to like report on this because there's no proof, but there is a conspiracy going around. Basically, the way that this fire is starting, it seems like some of it could have been started in strategic locations. Possibly. That's what some people are saying.
Purposely set on fire to maximize the destruction of the forest.
Because this tribe won a lawsuit against Big Oil.
Right.
Maybe
they're
it's
mining
some way
and stuff there. Yeah.
Right. At rapid pace. And they won a big lawsuit. So... how do you pronounce this? Waorani people?
Sounds about right.
Waorani people of the Pastaza. Indigenous tribe from the Ecuadorian Amazon. They've lived in the rainforest for a generation.
Which I think a lot of people
that didn't make any sense. Generation on generation. So for a long time, many generations.
Did you know that in the Amazon region, there's over 30 million people living there?
That's crazy. I did not know that. That's a lot of people.
Not in towns and cities around it.
God.
Technically Amazon, but
can you
also
imagine
in
what they're dealing with right now? So much shit. Oh, smoke everywhere. It's just a mess.
Well, there's an interesting, sorry, just a quick side thing, because I watched a really interesting little clip from Graham Hancock and Joe Rogan. Graham Hancock was talking about the Amazon, and as the Amazon's being cleared, we're discovering more and more archaeological finds, and we're finding that there's, like I think we talked about it in the past, but you know how in Guatemala they use that LiDAR and they found that like huge underground civilization, like buildings and things like that under the ground there.
Yeah.
So they're starting to do that in the Amazon. They're starting to realize that there is literally enormous civilizations that existed with millions of people living in the deep Amazon jungle. Wow. And we had no idea that anybody could live there because apparently the soil in the jungle is not very good. Like just by default, the Amazon soil is not great for growing crops and things like that.
Interesting.
But
why are they doing so much of that?
Well, what they found out is that they created an ability to like almost like compost the soil in order to make it super fertile. And there is like civilizations there that may have had several million people that live there. So it's just crazy. Like there's so much it's just a huge reason to preserve it. And we got to preserve this. We can't let this burn to the ground. Like,
the land of so many people.
And just like archaeological sites and, tribes and things like that. So much history that's going to be lost if this burns down.
Yeah. But back to this tribe, this Waorani tribe. But they basically had won a lawsuit, an ongoing court case regarding the selling of sacred Amazonian lands.
To the oil companies, right? Yeah. So a court decision ruled that the tribe had not been properly consulted before the lands were sold off. And the government appealed the decision, but ultimately lost when the panel upheld the ruling that the tribe had not been properly consulted. The decision saw 500,000 acres of ancestral land protected from being mined for oil drilling by oil corporations.
So a lot of people are saying that they may have started the fires
on purpose
to kind of get back at them, saying "fuck you" for winning that lawsuit.
So there absolutely could be sort of this fight for land. I mean, just look at America. Like we took all the land from the Native Americans and did that. Could Brazil be doing some type of thing with that? We're going to come in, take your ancestral lands, plow it, clear it. You'll have to leave and relocate so that we can drill and do everything else and essentially build on it. Just like in America.
And he offers them that if they give up their land, he'll give them a better life. They're probably like, fuck
that's
you.
Exactly what we told the Native Americans. That's exactly what the explorers told the Native Americans.
We'll give you a better life, as in you join our life. You
Right.
start living in our society. Right. And if you don't...
Forget your old ancestral ways. You come live as a modern man, like...
Ridiculous.
Let's,
So there isn't any evidence that they have actually started these fires on purpose. But it is definitely going around. I've had a lot of people, even Brazilian subscribers, tweeting us and saying that they think that
I'd be questioning it too, man. Mm-hmm. It seems a little, I think that there's all these factors, right? It's not just one thing or the other. I think this could be part of it. Maybe they were started by the government, but then because climate change is the way it is and the rainforest is in the state it's in, it's just been way worse than maybe the government even thought it would, and now it's kind of out of hand. They're like, oh shit, Now we have a major problem on our hands. So it's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. But if you want to help, you can donate to the Rainforest Action Network's Protect an Acre program. They help protect and defend rainforest territories and indigenous people. There's also Amazon Watch that preserves rainforests and indigenous people. There's tons of different organizations, but one of the things that is really cool, and if trees are burning down, you got to replant the trees. So one of the ways that we can help do that is there's this search engine called ecosia.org, ECOSIA.org. And it's a search engine that's free to use. You just go to, that website, set it as your search engine.
Instead of Google or whatever.
Instead of
or
Google
Bing.
or Yahoo or whatever the hell you use. And for every 45 searches you do, they plant a tree, essentially.
Which is awesome.
Cool, using the money they make through the search engine.
I bet we planted about 2 trees with this episode researching for it.
Oh, totally. It's amazing. How many searches do you do a day, you think? Like
a lot. I know. I'm constantly pulling my phone.
Yeah, you're constantly so you can set it up on your phone, on all your devices, computers, and all that stuff. So you should definitely do that.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love seeing companies that are giving back like that. Mm-hmm. Or companies for a cause.
And I think we're going to start seeing more as more people become socially conscious.
I think so too.
Things like that.
Because that's what people want.
I mean, we don't want to die. We don't want the planet to die.
No, obviously not. I'm just so worried about my kids. Like, that's been my biggest issue. I don't know if I even want to have kids right now.
No, I know. It's scary, man. I mean, just the whole world in general is scary. But, you know, we can all do our part to try to make the world a better place, right? Mm-hmm. I think that was a Reading Rainbow lesson. I don't know why that song just popped in my head for some reason. Reading Rainbow? You remember Reading Rainbow?
Fly in the sky.
Yeah.
So
that was a great show.
Fly so high.
Yeah. Take a look.
It's in a book. A reading rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the Mile Higher podcast, guys. And on that note, we are going to jump into our sponsors for today. So guys, obviously we all care about the ingredients in the food we eat and in the beauty products we use, but shouldn't we also care about the ingredients in our feminine care products? Unlike other major brands, Lola's products are 100% natural. No BS, mystery fibers, or doubts about what's going into your body. Plus, Lola products come in a simple, customizable subscription, which makes it really easy because I'm sure everyone's been there when that time of the month comes and you got no tampons. So Lola makes sure that you get exactly what you need delivered every month, exactly when you need it. And now there's also something called Sex by Lola, which is a line that was gynecologist approved for sexual health and wellness products, which are actually designed first and foremost for women. They are stripped of unnecessary, irritating additives and deliver the sensation and reliability that women expect and deserve. And you can now just add it to your subscription, which is really convenient. Lola is known for its line of period products made with organic cotton. They make your month a little bit easier because their subscriptions are fully customizable and you can choose your mix of absorbency, numbers of boxes, and frequency of delivery. You can feel good about your purchase with Lola because for every purchase, they donate feminine care products to homeless shelters across the United States. Also, this company is founded by women, which we love. And I love that I don't have to worry about what I'm putting into my body because the people who make some of the feminine care products we have access to truly don't care about us, guys. That's the truth. But Lola definitely does. So check out Lola at mylola.com and enter Mile Higher for 40% off all subscriptions. That's 40% off all subscriptions at mylola.com with code Mile Higher.
How often do you think about your socks? If you're like I used to be, not much. But I recently discovered socks that change the way I'll think about socks forever. They're called Bombas. Bombas are literally the most comfortable socks in the history of feet. They're made from super soft natural cotton and every pair comes with arch support, a seamless toe, and a cushioned footbed that's comfy but not too thick. They literally feel amazing on your feet. They've got support in all of the right places. They literally have tons and tons of colors, patterns, lengths, styles. But I think perhaps the thing I like most about Bombas is the fact that for every pair of socks that are purchased, they actually donate a pair of socks to those in need. Because actually, in reality, homeless shelters never have enough socks because they need new socks. You can't donate used socks. Who wants to wear somebody else's socks, right? So Bombas actually donates socks to those in need with every purchase that is made. Seriously, guys, if you're in need of some great socks, check out Bombas. They have so many styles and colors and literally every type of sock that you could possibly think of. So if you're interested in getting some of the best socks you will ever wear, buy your Bombas at bombas.com/Mile Higher today and get 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/Mile Higher for 20% off. Bombas.com/Mile Higher.
So if you're anything like me, you've had a bad experience when it comes to bras. I've always hated bras. And a few years ago, I got a breast reduction and it was really confusing to figure out even what bras to get after that because my size changed and everything. And that is when I found Third Love, which is our sponsor for today. So I've been a customer of Third Love for a while. I truly love these bras and they are the only bras I will wear. Seriously. The coolest thing about it is they have a quiz on their website called the Fit Finder, where you go through kind of like a series of questions and they go off a bunch of different data and they find your perfect fit. And I actually found out that I was wearing the wrong bra size for like a few years since my reduction. And I recently retook the quiz and was corrected. And I've been a lot happier in my bras since. They have more sizes than other brands. In fact, they offer 70 different sizes, including their signature half cup sizes. It's very convenient because you don't have to go to the store. You just hop right onto their website. Every customer has 60 days to wear it, wash it, put it to the test. And if you don't love it, you can return it and Third Love will wash it and actually donate it to a woman in need. Returns and exchanges are free and easy, which is awesome. Gotta love an online brand like that. And it is hands down going to be the most comfortable bra you own. And I'm serious about that. They are not only comfortable, but they're also really pretty. Like, you don't have to sacrifice the style to also get the comfort with Third Love, which is why I truly love it. Third Love knows that there's a perfect bra for everyone. So right now they are offering our listeners 15% off their first order. Just go to thirdlove.com/milehigher now to find your perfect fitting bra and get 15% off your first purchase. That's thirdlove.com/milehigher for 15% off today. All right, guys, now let's get into our true crime section for today. We're going to be talking about Michael Gargiulo, or known as the Hollywood Ripper. There was another name for him,
Boy Next Door Killer.
Boy Next Door Killer, right. Mm-hmm. Weird. I hate all these weird names for serial killers.
I know.
That they call them like weird things. I don't know why.
I get why they do it, because it helps. I mean, it does help bring awareness to the case because people remember it versus Michael Gargiulo. Like, who's going to remember that? Who cares, you know?
Right.
So I get why they do it. But this guy is a complete savage in a short version. Yeah, really. I mean, for 15 years, he essentially methodically stalked and then killed numerous women, which we'll talk about today. Some of the victims that we'll talk about, there's 4 of them, and they're Trisha Pacascio.
That we know of.
Yeah, that we know of, right?
Trisha Pacascio, Ashley Elrin, Maria Bruno, and Michelle Murphy.
And they're all young. They're all very attractive and outgoing
really
women. Absolutely, yeah. So, Michael Gargiulo, who was he? He was born February 15, 1976, and grew up in suburban Chicago. He was an athlete. He was on the high school football team. He was super, he was like built. And for actually a point in his life, we'll talk a little bit more about later. He was an amateur boxer, an actor, as well as an HVAC guy. And he pretty much owned like his own plumbing company.
Yeah. Kind of worked on air conditioning.
Mm-hmm. People that knew this guy described him as reserved, quiet, and kept to himself. A lot of his friends said that he had 2 sides to him, a quiet, insecure side, while the other side was described as the crazy switch, which, you got to sometimes watch out for. These people are super reserved and stuff because you never know what they're plotting.
You ever like met someone that just seems like too quiet and too mellow? You're almost like, what the fuck you got going on?
Especially when there's like, because I mean, you can have that personality, but at the same time, it's like, if you go about it in a creepy way and you start creeping people out, or people are like, this guy's got a crazy switch. Like you say something to you go a certain way with him, he'll just flip shit on you. And that's kind of, I think, what is the deal with Michael. So his friends also said that when Michael wanted something, there was no stopping him, and he would do whatever it took to get the satisfaction he wanted. And so pretty much he lived a double life for almost 15 years, and he considers himself an expert in forensics, which is interesting. So on the night of Friday, August 13th, Trisha and her friends were all together for a scavenger hunt party. It was like a, get together with all their friends, drive around and do kind of like,
night games. So many people did that kind of stuff. Totally. Friday the 13th, though, that's interesting.
Of course, it's Friday the 13th.
And they even went to dinner at TGI Fridays. They had a general,
after hanging out, playing their
generally mellow night, just with her friends. And she gave several of her friends a ride home after that.
And Trisha was we said that she was smart, and she was. She was actually bound for Purdue University in Indiana, where she earned an engineering scholarship, actually, which is pretty impressive.
She was really excited to go.
Yeah, super
really
stoked.
Awaiting this.
I mean, think back to like when we, graduated and stuff, and like
how excited you are to go off and start your life at the end of the summer. Yeah,
it's
totally.
It's a huge chapter in growing up.
She was just about to start that college. After this perfect evening with her friends, having a fun time all together. So she gets home sometime around 1 a.m., sometime after 1 a.m., parked her car and walked up to the side of her house with her key in her hand. And she was going to let herself into the house because her parents were already in there sleeping, but she never even made it inside the house.
Fucking crazy. Because the next morning on August 14, 1993, Trisha's father, Rick, discovered her dead body on the front doorstep of their house. She had been stabbed repeatedly in the left breast, arm, and chest, and she was left bleeding to death on the doorstep of the family home.
I truly cannot imagine what that was like for her father to go out to, I don't know what he was going out, maybe to get the paper or just to go outside in the morning, and then to walk in on that. Your daughter laying there dead and stabbed, like blood everywhere. I mean, Oh my gosh, the trauma that he probably went through from that moment. Just terrible.
Yeah, just complete. Yeah, I mean, talk about having a bomb dropped on you like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that will literally break you.
Well, you can't
as a
do
father.
anything. That's what he said, is like, I had to just look at her knowing that she was gone and I couldn't do anything to help her. It's just so sad.
Yeah, I mean, literally, like, she was literally on the front step, like literally just laying there lifeless on the front step with just blood everywhere. It was just an absolute horrible scene. But there were no indications at first about who could have done this to their daughter. And the police had about 15 suspects they were looking at early on in the case, but the biggest suspect was Michael Gargiulo, and here's why. Michael ended up going back to her house and watching the police pick up and clean up the crime scene from afar. Michael's friends talked to Michael about what had happened, and he acted like he had no idea what was going on and that the whole thing was just insane. So at first he was just trying to be like, oh yeah, this is insane. I don't know what happened. This is crazy. And so there was no reason to make people believe that Michael would have done something like this, because he was close with the Picasso family. He'd like eat dinner and hang out at their house all the time. He was like the neighborhood kid, you know, he was just like
no reason to not trust him.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, there wasn't a ton of suspicion from the parents with Michael at first, because Trisha's parents knew Michael's one of the more shy kids in the neighborhood friend group. And they said that they never knew him to be aggressive or violent, and that they had no reason to believe he had anything to do with Trisha's murder. He obviously knew Trisha because he was good friends with her brothers, but it's not like, you know, Trisha and Michael were really close themselves, you know, like they didn't have like, wasn't like they were dating or had a relationship or anything like that. It wasn't anything like that.
You wouldn't suspect him, obviously.
Right.
He wouldn't come to mind when you first think of who would want to kill Trisha.
Right. But about a year after Trisha's death, Michael started doing some really weird shit. Out of nowhere, he randomly started bringing Trisha's parents little gifts. Red flag, don't you think? On several occasions, he brought them flowers and even brought them a gift card to a restaurant. And he even bought Trisha's father a shirt. Trisha's parents thought it was really strange that Michael was doing this. And so they went ahead and told the police. And I'm sure the police were like, this is fucking weird.
He was getting them a lot of gifts. Like on Easter, he brought them a big gift. Like all the time, he was bringing over these nice floral arrangements and different things for their house and cookies. Yeah, that's major red flag.
Totally.
As a parent, I'd be like, what the fuck, dude? Why do you care so much? Like, you're still bringing stuff.
Yeah.
No one else was, but he was still bringing flowers and clearly was carrying some type of guilt.
Police also thought it was a bit weird that he was bringing gifts to her parents. So they started looking into Michael a bit more, and they found that he had a bit of a rap sheet. He had previously been arrested for theft. Another thing that raised a red flag was when Michael confronted one of Trisha's brothers and asked him, quote unquote, if you knew who did this, could you kill him? End quote. The fuck kind of question is that?
That's so weird. And basically his brother was like, yeah, I would definitely kill them. If
like,
I knew who it was, I
think?
would kill them. Like almost like, why the fuck you asking that?
Yeah.
And then after that, he calls the police and tells them that he was threatened by him.
Yeah, by the brother.
And so they call him and they're like, you know, Michael Gargiulo just told us that you threatened him.
Yeah. And he's like, what the? I'm sure he was.
He said, I threatened the guy.
Yeah.
I threatened to kill the person who killed my sister. So to be like, well, he threatened me, that means you're the person who killed his sister. I mean, it's so.
Right. So police are just like.
He's such an idiot.
Totally. So in order, you know, obviously the heat's starting to heat up for him with the police and everything.
The heat is heating up, folks.
The heat is heating up big time for Michael. But then he starts like pointing fingers because, of course, he doesn't want to be, you know, caught. So he points fingers to another neighborhood kid named Eric. And Eric was a close friend with Michael and Trisha's brothers. What a great friend, you know.
I just throw someone else under the bus
for murder. My God. But Michael told police that the morning after the murder, Eric showed up to Michael's house and asked Michael to come with him so he could hide a gym bag. And Michael said that he didn't know what was in the gym bag, but he strongly implied that the bag contained the knife used to kill Trisha. So because of this, Eric all of a sudden had a big target on his back and became the police's number one suspect. Wow. However, despite this, police weren't really able to build a case against either of these men, and eventually the case went cold. That's what's crazy with this. It literally did go cold for a long time. And then 5 years later, Michael randomly showed up at the Picasso's house and asked to talk with Trisha's dad. However, before they got a chance to talk, Michael's dad and one of his sisters showed up at the house and said that they had somewhere to be and had to leave.
Yeah, they
That's
basically
weird.
took him.
Yeah.
I mean, he came and was like,
I wonder what he was going to tell him.
I know. When he first got there, he asked if he was home, and they said no, he's at work. And so he said, okay, well, I'll wait for him. And he waited
Right.
for a full hour
That's so weird.
for him to get home from work. And as soon as the dad gets home from work, he comes in, and Michael's already being rushed out by his brother and his sister. When it seemed like he was sitting down about to tell him something. And her dad, Trish's dad, says that when he walked in, he had this look on his face like he was going to tell him something.
Tell him something big. Like,
yeah. So he immediately calls police and is like,
Right.
this is your guy. He did it. Like that, like confirmed it for him.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, that seems like a totally natural reaction. I would probably react the same way. I'd be like, this guy's a fucking
something
creep.
weird is going on.
He knows something.
And they're already thinking it's weird because of all the gifts and his strange behavior. So he's already on their radar as a potential killer.
Yeah, and who knows? That might have really, like, I don't know, maybe they would have brought him in and at least questioned him or something. Like, my God. But literally, like, shortly after this, he runs away to California.
His dad and sister probably. Well, if they know, it depends on if they know about it. Because it's kind of interesting that they rushed him out of the house almost as if they knew he might, like, say something. Or maybe he confessed to them, or maybe they had a feeling that he did it or something. And maybe they told him, like, hey, man, you got to get out of here. You got to go to California.
If that's the case,
go start over.
Fucking terrible people for doing that.
There's a lot of people that would want to protect their family member first and get them to safety before justice as a whole.
Yeah, that's true. 2 side notes though. Years later on, Michael bragged about killing Trisha, quote unquote, saying, "I left the bitch on the step for dead." And eventually they find Michael's DNA on Trisha's fingernails, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but it's an important thing. So now let's move on to victim number 2, Ashley Ellerin. So after Michael moved to California, he actually moved to Hollywood, where he took up residence near Ashley Ellerin, his second victim.
She was so pretty.
She was, yeah.
She looked really sweet. She looked like this babysitter I used to have named Ashley too.
Mm-hmm. And she was known as someone who loved to have fun and was really thriving in the hustle and bustle of Hollywood. She was a student at the LA Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, and she wanted to work in the fashion modeling industry, as many do in LA.
She was quite the partier, was the T. She and her friends that's what they kind of said they were known for doing together, that their friendships were kind of based on doing a lot of partying.
They did a lot of partying, and they were definitely in like the Hollywood scene.
Yes,
getting mingling with celebrities and people that hang out in Hollywood and things like that. And she was really young at the time. She was like 22 years old. And
so eventually she meets Ashton Kutcher at a party in Hollywood. People, yeah. And at the time he was starring in That 70s Show. So it was
he was like 21. He was like super young when he was doing that. He was a young boy,
way before Thorne. Yeah. Way before everything else. So it's kind of interesting, his involvement in this case. Yeah. And it's honestly helped the case get more coverage, him being somewhat involved, because he was just in the trial. He just testified, which unfortunately is private. We can't share the testimony with you guys, but
we can tell you what happened that night.
Yeah.
So Ashton Kutcher, it was the night of February 24th, 2001, which is the night that Ashley is killed. But Ashley had planned to go out with Ashton Kutcher on a first date. They were going to go to a party. It was Grammy night, and Ashton was planning to pick her up and then take her to the party.
Imagine that. Ashton Kutcher's about to take you out on a date.
Must have been so excited.
It's like a huge night for her.
Yeah.
To on her first date to the Grammys. Like, that's insane. And she had no idea what was going to happen that night.
No clue. So Ashton arrived at her house at around 10:45 p.m. and, knocked on the door, rang the doorbell, but Ashley didn't answer the door. And of course he thought this was weird because he's like, yo, I'm like picking you up for a party. Like,
why are you?
Why would you ghost me right now? Probably.
Yeah, why would you ghost Ashton Kutcher?
He probably thought it was super weird that she didn't answer. And then she had like the sunroom right next to the front door, and there's some windows there. And so he looks through the windows, and that's when he said he thought he saw what looked like wine spilt on the floor. Because like through the window, you can kind of see into the hallway where that room connects to. And then in the hallway was where the wine was, which we obviously know now it was actually blood. And then obviously he eventually left because she never came out, obviously. But that night she was brutally attacked. She was stabbed over 47 times
total, like,
in her home.
Crime, passion crime.
Totally. with a vengeance. She was attacked from behind, and her injuries included a neck wound that nearly severed her head. She had deep punctures to the chest, stomach, and back. In some cases, the punctures were up to 6 inches deep. That's insane. And she was attacked by a left-handed person. Who else is left-handed? Well, Michael is. So early the next day, her roommate found her dead in the hallway just outside her bathroom. And obviously it was the blood that was on the ground, not wine.
Yeah.
But at the crime scene, there weren't any clues to help detectives figure out who did this. Ashley's friends told them that she had met a man who lived in the same neighborhood a few months back, and they didn't know if he had anything to do with it, but they said that he was an HVAC worker. Eventually, police were able to identify the man as Michael Gargiulo, which one of the common trends and methodologies that he uses is he targets a young female, and then he somehow is able to like move really close to them, whether right next to them, the same apartment building, but moves really close to them to where he can watch all of their movements and literally stalks them.
So how do we know though that he wasn't just stalking whoever was conveniently living near him? I don't know if he necessarily moved in specifically to...
Oh, I think he did though.
You really think
he did? Well, what he does is he goes under the cover as like an HVAC worker. So if he just happens to see somebody he likes, he then inserts himself into their life by going over there and be like, hey, you need me to look at your furnace. You need me, and then he gets like the lay of the land, and then he starts watching, and he hangs out around there. And the amount of time that he spends stalking these and gathering intelligence for his victims is insane. Like it's literally insane. Like he
lived near most of them.
Yeah. But not only that, he goes outside, he gets in his car, he parks outside.
But is he like moving specifically for specific women is what I'm saying?
Yeah, I believe so.
You think so?
I think so, yeah.
What if he's just moving there, finding a woman in the area and then targeting her because it's conveniently where
I don't know,
lives?
because how does he get so lucky to get apartments literally like perfect so he can perfectly look into their place, you know?
That's true.
I think
could be.
The first two I don't think are quite as like, you know, perfectly set up like that, but the last two victims definitely are.
What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, that's crazy if he really was like, I need to get in that apartment. And they'd be like, well, you can't request that apartment
That's
right
what
now.
I was saying. Like, what if they're like, no, dude, there's already someone living there, or why do you want this specific one? Or
could it be possible he moved in the apartment and then started, ooh, who's that over there?
Like he just started staking out people from wherever he lived. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe, yeah.
That seems more likely. But then obviously once he found a victim, he would stalk them.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like he moved in specifically to find Ashley.
It wouldn't surprise me though. He's that crazy he would do that.
God, that's really crazy to run away from an investigation back in Illinois with Trisha, run to California and immediately move in to kill someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like... Yeah. I wonder if at some point he was just like, I'm just going to be a serial killer. This is just my life.
Well, he clearly gets some sort of thrill from this. I mean, they call him a thrill killer. Like this is a game. This is like an adrenaline rush for him. He gets off to this.
Right. Which is one thing we wanted to talk about. We don't know if there's any sexual assault. And sometimes when there's not sexual assault and crimes, it's like really confusing because most crimes, male and female, there's sexual assault
sexually motivated and stuff,
in the beginning, unless it's like a personal relationship. But when it's just like a random attacker on a woman, a lot of the times there is sexual assault.
But you have to, also like all the victims are attractive too. Like,
right.
Not saying no one is.
But it seems like he just killed them right away. I mean, he could have done something to them afterwards, but it seemed like he was more into the thrill of killing.
Yeah.
More than it was just getting rid of a witness. There's a big difference. There's people who are killing to kill because they enjoy it or they get off on it, like you said, or there's people who are just getting rid of the evidence because they raped someone and they don't want them to go and talk.
Right. Yeah.
So he seems to be one of like more of that side where he just really enjoyed to kill. He had like some type of anger, like he likes this. He has that serial killer gene or whatever.
Mm-hmm. He just finds a lot of satisfaction from killing. Because there was no reports from any of the victims, I believe, of any sexual assault or rape or anything like that.
Yeah, and I mean with Trisha, she was just found on her porch. So unless he did something out there, it seemed like he attacked her as she was about to walk in the door and just killed her on the spot.
Well, and I mean one of the themes that we do see is he does go for the breasts.
Mm-hmm.
That's
so
what's
it's somewhat
weird.
of a sexual thing.
There's I mean, you have to think like if he's obviously grabbing for those and stabbing those, and then he's picking very attractive women, you know, like you have to think there's some sort of, you know, maybe it's kind of like these women never paid attention to me, you know, as I was growing up and in school.
Does he have a hatred towards women?
Correct. And therefore I'm going to get my revenge on every single one because I was mistreated, or there's got to be some reason.
Maybe.
know.
I mean, they didn't talk about anything like
no,
that.
they
We're
did.
not sure
I mean,
what
we
his
don't know.
childhood was
I'm
really
just,
like.
speculating, but
It's totally possible though.
Well,
he seemed to have a very a hatred towards women. We'll talk about it later, but he has some quotes, just some mean, just the way he speaks about his victims, like with no remorse.
Well, and I think part of it too, like part of the reason why he moved to Hollywood too, is he kind of always had this obsession with like wanting to become an actor and potentially be like famous, maybe, I don't know. But he actually played a small role in a film as a boxer. So I think part of it too with like the Hollywood stuff may have been the lifestyle and you know, maybe he even knew that like Ashton Kutcher was, you know, talking to her. I mean, if he stalked her,
I know, I was thinking about that.
Maybe he was like, oh, here's a girl that is like getting the attention of these famous people. You know, I'm going to target her. Like maybe that was part of the reason why. But he was just super creepy, man. He would like park his car in the middle, you know, like outside of their place in the middle of the night. And like her roommates would like one night went out there and was like,
yeah, her male roommate.
He was like, dude, what the hell are you doing? And his excuse was that he couldn't go home that night. I mean, this is like late at night. And
he's just sitting in front of their house, like watching.
Yeah.
And he tells the roommate, basically, I can't go home because the police are looking at me for a murder in Chicago. Can you imagine telling someone that? Like, yeah, man, I'm just, you know, hanging out here looking like I'm creepily stalking your female roommate. And it's because I'm hiding from a murder trial of another girl. Like, what?
But of course he was like, I didn't do it. But they
still,
want a DNA swab.
Are you kidding me? I would be like, you stay the hell away from me until they prove your ass didn't do it.
Yeah, well, and that's what the roommate said. He was like, well, if it wasn't you that did it, then what do you have to hide? Just give them the DNA sample so you're not a suspect anymore. Like, that's the rational, logical explanation. But of course, Michael is not logical or rational at all. And it was at this point that Michael ended up lifting up his pant leg. So after he's already being questioned, he lifts up his pant leg, pulls out a knife out of a sheath attached to his leg. And then of course the roommate's like, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? Get the hell out of here. And then he went to tell Ashley and the other roommates. And they were like, oh, that's kind of ridiculous. Like, he's just making up the FBI thing. Like, I mean, I could see how you might do that. It does sound kind of wild and crazy.
Yeah, like the FBI's after you did? Really?
And that's the horrible thing is like, do you ever think about like times where like people that might be killers or whatever, you know, if you ever interact with them and, you know, you just have no clue because they're, you know,
that's
if they're
most of the time how it is.
It's just crazy. But then in 2002, the Cook County Sheriff detectives contacted the LAPD to ask them to help collect a sample of Michael's DNA for the Tricia Boccaccio murder. And it just so happened that at this time, LAPD was already investigating Michael for the murder of Ashley as well. And it was a perfect coincidence and made their case way stronger that the LAPD were already looking into Michael at the time that the Cook County contacted them. And LAPD agreed to help Cook County Sheriff's Office, but it took them a full year before they were able to track down Michael and collect a DNA sample. So lots of, you know, there's always issues, like we've seen issues with, you know, different departments, especially in different geographical regions. Like there has to be a better way for like different departments to collaborate on cases. I'd love to talk to like a detective or something and like get the full scoop on like, is it really that hard to like, you know, connect cases and connect evidence and DNA samples and stuff? It must be, because it seems like that's kind of a reoccurring factor in a lot of these cases we cover is like, you know, like with Ted Bundy. I mean, that was a long time ago, but like one department knows about one thing and then one department across the country knows about the same thing. Killer. Yeah. It's hard. It takes forever for them to connect back to one suspect. And that's exactly what happened. But before we talk about his third victim, we'd like to thank our last sponsors for today. As most of us have found out the hard way, including myself, getting into debt is easy, but getting out is hard, especially if your FICO score isn't great. Sky-high interest rates can make it incredibly hard for you to break out of that revolving debt cycle. Thankfully, now there's Upstart.com, the revolutionary lending platform that offers smarter interest rates to help you pay off high-interest credit card debt, which I know for me personally, if I had known about Upstart a few years ago when I was still digging myself out of credit card debt, I would have most definitely went and gotten an Upstart loan because of that smarter interest rate. Because if you don't have great credit, then you get slammed with very high interest rates, which may even put you into debt more than you already are. What's great about Upstart is they go beyond your traditional FICO score or credit score when assessing your actual credit worthiness. They actually reward you based on your education and job history in the form of a smarter interest rate, which is great. So they don't ding you on the credit part of the application. Upstart believes you're more than just a credit score. They make it fast, simple, and easy to check your rate in just a few minutes without affecting your credit score. The best part is that once the loan is approved, most people get their funds the very next business day, the next day, which is great. Over 200,000 people have used Upstart to pay off credit cards, student loans, fund their wedding, or to make a large purchase. Free yourself from the burden of high interest credit card debt by consolidating everything into one monthly payment with Upstart. See why Upstart is ranked #1 in their category with over 300 businesses on Trustpilot, and hurry to upstart.com/milehigher to find out how low your Upstart rate is. Checking your rate only takes a few minutes and it won't affect your credit, which is the best part. That's upstart.com/milehigher.
So we know the breed of both of our dogs, Bernie and Sadie. They are Havanese, but my dad has a dog named Nigel, and we have no idea what he is. We were told that he was a Schnauzer, but he definitely is not a Schnauzer. He's really small. He kind of looks like a Cairn Terrier, maybe Yorkie somewhere in there. I'm not exactly sure what he is. And that's when Embark came into the picture, and we were super excited to be partnering up with them because we get to test Nigel and find out what he is. Embark allows dog owners to learn about their pup's breed, ancestry, health, traits, and even find your dog's relatives. Embark also detects over 250 breeds and screens for over 170 different genetic health conditions, so you can know how to best care for your dog and create a training and health plan. So we did the test on Nigel. We are currently waiting for the results. It's really easy to do. You just hold your dog and you swab the inside of their mouth with a little cotton swab thing, and then you send it off to them and they process your results. Right now, for our listeners, Embark is offering an exclusive summer deal that you can't get anywhere else. Just go to embarkvet.com and use the promo code MileHigher to save 15% off your dog DNA test kit today. Discover your dog more than fur deep. Visit embarkvet.com and use the promo code MileHigher to save today.
So the third victim is named Maria Bruno.
Another just gorgeous girl. My God.
Yeah.
They were all so
like a model.
pretty. Mm-hmm.
And at this point in time, it's been 12 years since Trisha's murder and 4 years after Ashley's. And Michael again had moved, which is interesting. Like he knows he's always got to stay on the move because, people are going to eventually narrow it down and figure out where he is and stuff. So he moves to another LA suburb called El Monte. And on December 1st, 2005, 32-year-old Maria Bruno was found dead. She was stabbed 17 times to death in her home in El Monte, California.
I have to say, being stabbed to death just sounds
horrible.
like the worst thing ever.
It is.
I think there's no other way.
Because you're alive for most of it.
Oh my God.
Because, like with a bullet, at least you're, most of the times
it's terrible. You're just
out.
So aware of what's going on. It's so scary. Knives scare me so bad. I hate knives.
And that's what he would do. He'd get big old butcher knives. It's like everybody's nightmare, like to be stabbed to death by a butcher knife. And that's what he would do. And Maria was a mother and a wife and had come to the States from El Salvador when she was a little girl. She had two-year-old twins, a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. So a mother.
4 kids, guys.
She had recently separated from her husband, and he was the one who had custody of the kids at the time of her death. But Maria's apartment was on the ground floor, and there was a window that had the screen been taken out when police were investigating it. And police believed that Michael entered through that window, then put on blue surgical booties, like those little things that you cover up your shoes with that like surgeons wear. And sometimes the HVAC people will wear them when they come over. Pretty common.
Carpet cleaning,
And then he grabbed a kitchen knife and then went into her bedroom where she was sleeping. It's just horrible, God. People in the most vulnerable, when you're sleeping in your bed, you assume
just
you're safe.
Just for no fucking reason, too. just
Just
decides
horrible,
to kill her.
dude. And this one was just brutal, man, because he stabbed, not only did he stab her a bunch, but he gashed her throat out, and then he cut off her breasts, including removing implants, and then actually placed one in her mouth. It was just fucked up.
That's just like, that shows you how sick this guy is, and how this is such a, I feel like he did have a serious hatred towards women.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, to mutilate somebody implies rage and hatred.
You know what's really interesting? He's kind of similar to Jack the Ripper. Maybe that's why they're calling him Hollywood Ripper.
Yeah.
Because Jack the Ripper hated women.
And he mutilated everybody pretty much. Took
out
heart
their
out and stuff.
uterus
and stuff.
Ugh, really bad.
I just don't understand how a human being can do that to another human being. It doesn't make any
know.
sense to me. It doesn't matter how mad you are. Like, how can you get to that point where you think, I need to start like ripping out people's, cutting off fucking appendages and shit.
Something's wrong in their head.
Right. There's got to be, because it's just fucked up, man. So right away, the police believe that whoever had done this did it for no other reason than to commit a random murder. Like, they didn't know.
Absolutely brutal.
Yeah, they didn't have any connections at first. And as far as anyone knew, Maria didn't have a relationship with someone who they think could have done this. But Maria's husband was actually the one who found her body, and he called police. Can you imagine that shit? Oh my God.
Oh my God. It makes me want to cry thinking about that. What that was like for him. All these people who had to walk in on these poor women.
So Maria's husband was the one who found her body, and he called police. And when police arrived at the crime scene, they found a blue shoe cover outside of the front door of her apartment. And the shoe cover had some blood on it, and they were able to match the DNA to Maria, confirming that it was her blood on the shoe cover.
So if you're going to wear shoe covers, why would you leave it at the crime scene? Like, what a dumbass.
Yeah. Well, I think he just like, once he goes through the act, he's just like out of his mind.
Yeah.
Probably. He's probably just like not even thinking straight at all. Like, I can't even imagine being in a right state of mind when you're doing that crazy shit. True. So forensic analysis showed that there were drops of Marie's blood on the shoe cover and an unknown person's DNA on the elastic band. So it turns out that Michael Gargiulo lived in the same apartment complex and could see directly into Maria's apartment from his own living room. And this is the one where I'm like, I'm pretty sure, because like,
think he moved there.
Because I mean, why would you just like? I mean, I guess he could have just randomly picked that apartment, and then all
right.
She just happened.
What
to
are
be
the
living
chances
there.
that it's always this beautiful woman living right across?
Exactly.
Yeah, that kind of is.
The chances are pretty slim. I think he staked. I mean, he spent a lot of time staking these victims out for sure. But later, a witness came forward stating that they had seen Michael just staring at Maria's apartment, watching her as she moved around inside. At one point, he even tried to open her doorknob. So he's that creep. He's like that creep walking around the apartment complex, like walking up to doors and like seeing if they leave them open and not.
So freaky.
And at one point, I guess he actually like trailed her into the apartment. And I don't know exactly what happened there. I don't know like if he went in, like she went in, then he kind of went in and like just peeked around and left or something weird. Like that's so weird. But
maybe
he actually
did she report
no,
that?
like I don't think so. He like actually like
how do we even know that happened then?
It was in the trial. But while
if she like told a friend that he did that.
I don't know, man. That's crazy. But while this case was under investigation, Michael again moved locations and moved up to Santa Monica and took up residence in an apartment across the alley from Michelle Murphy, who was his victim number 4.
So I guess he really could have moved into all these places knowing that.
I think he did.
That's so insane.
He's that insane about it. He literally made sure he was always somewhere at a vantage point where he could watch real easily without drawing suspicion, So
where is he first finding them? That's so weird. So he must be finding them in some other way.
He probably
finding out where they live and then moving where they live. That seems like so much work.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how he gets lucky in the places that happen to be right across the way or open.
What do you think, Janelle? You're making some faces
I'm
over
just
there.
Like, I don't know. That's crazy to me. I mean, I guess it's possible.
Just doesn't seem like
Holy
so much
crap,
work.
Though, that just seems like it's so inconvenient for him. Why would he just not move into a place that he can get into? There are plenty of beautiful women everywhere.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's,
it is California.
It's not like he was dating these people and had a relationship and was following this specific person.
But how do you know if it's going to be like a grandma across the street from you or a pretty woman?
Well, I mean, yeah, but you can...
He had to do some surveillance, though. He had to go into these places before moving in and stake them out and see, like, maybe what he did is he'd go like to the leasing office and be like, what apartments are open? He would figure out what apartments he could potentially move into. Then he would walk up to those apartments. You know, he can kind of scope out where you're at. And then he just was could creep and just started creeping on everybody around till he found one that happened to have his type of victim in it.
Oh my God.
Which is crazy. It is absolutely crazy. No one does that, but someone like Michael, I guess, did.
Seemed like this became his whole life after a while.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he's totally consumed by it, clearly, because he keeps doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So on April 29, 2008, Michelle Murphy went to bed around 11 p.m. in her apartment. Her roommate was out of the country, so she was home alone. This is literally like a straight up nightmare, man. And it was a warm evening in Santa Monica, so she left the second floor window open to let the breeze in. And police believe that at around 11:40 p.m. on the night of April 29th, her killer climbed through her apartment window, went into her bedroom while she was sleeping, and started attacking her with a knife. Again, the same method every time. I mean, police are like, there's clearly some type of serial killer that's doing this. She was stabbed multiple times in her chest and shoulder, which woke her up. And at some point during the attack, she was able to get her legs under her and her feet up and kick him off of her.
Good for her.
Seriously, like
fighting back.
had a fighting chance.
So
which
sad.
caused the killer, or Michael, to cut his own wrist, bleeding all over the place. He ran out of the apartment and took off. And apparently, right before he fled, he told Michelle, quote unquote, "I'm sorry." Which,
Fuck.
I'm sure Michelle was like, "Fuck you!" Like,
Yeah.
you know,
What?
like, God.
That makes no sense. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh shit! You
Coming in
woke
here
up.
and
My
stabbing
bad.
you. Yeah. Oh my God. Well,
And then he
she
bled
ended up
all over the place.
surviving,
Yeah,
which is awesome.
She did survive the attack, and this was ultimately like how police got him, is because he cut himself on the wrist and just was bleeding all over the place. So
all over.
there was blood all over
DNA everywhere.
her blanket on her bed, and then a trail out the door all the way like to
Down
his
the
apartment.
street.
Yeah, past his apartment and stuff.
So she called 911.
And the police came and they followed the trail, and they ended up submitting the blood that was found at the scene. And 25 days later, they got the results that the DNA from the blood matched Michael Gargiulo. DNA analysis showed that Gargiulo's blood was on her bedspread and mixed even with Michelle's blood. So there you go.
Yeah.
You know, no questions about
That
that.
wasn't happening in the other way.
So on June 6, 2008, within 24 hours of matching the DNA to Michael, he was arrested and charged with attempted murder. What's crazy was Michael was actually living in the building across the alley from Michelle's apartment building. He was able to see right into her bedroom from the window in his apartment.
God, that's so creepy, dude.
That's crazy, man. But one of the things that raised flags for police right away was the fact that when Michael was arrested, he immediately asked police which agency they were from. Hey, what department you guys from?
Wait, which one are you guys? Because I'm wanted by
The police were
multiple
like,
police.
the police were like, oh, that's weird. You know, asking what jurisdiction we're from.
So they believed he must be involved in other crimes in the areas.
Yeah, and they matched his DNA sample that was in the national database. And this DNA sample that was there had been collected way back in 2002 when Cook County had originally contacted LAPD asking for their help, which is interesting. So after this, detectives believed that perhaps Michelle's attack was related to the murder of Maria Bruno. Both of their stories were strangely similar in how they played out. Yeah, it was like exactly the same scenario almost every time. And when investigators were searching Michael's apartment in El Monte, they ended up finding the matching blue shoe cover that was found outside of Michelle's apartment with blood on it.
Done.
In like the attic. Yeah, like what? Like he didn't even
Good
throw
job.
it away. He just like shoved it up
Idiot.
in the attic. Yeah. And then on September 4th, 2008, Michael was already in jail for the attack of Michelle, but was now being charged with the murders of Ashley and Maria as well. And while he was in the El Monte jail, this is crazy, but he made makeshift handcuff keys out of plastic and planned to attack a jailer, break out of jail, steal a police car, and flee to Mexico. Like he plotted this, and they obviously like figured it out. But what a crazy guy! What a crazy fucking guy!
He did not want to be there.
So the Cook County Sheriff's Office kind of fucked up because it turns out that back in 2003, the Illinois State Crime Lab matched Michael's DNA, which was collected in LA, to DNA found on Trisha's fingernails back in 2003.
Dude, that is so, what a
Years
disservice to her, to Trisha, and to everyone else who followed her. My God.
Yeah. And
Could
they
have been
said,
prevented from that.
and the Cook County Sheriff's Office said that they didn't do anything because they weren't sure whether the DNA was under her fingernails or on top of it. And because they couldn't determine that, they didn't arrest him.
That's ridiculous.
And, like Michael's like,
murders.
just because you got, someone's DNA on you doesn't mean that you like killed them or committed a crime or whatever. But I mean, come on, like, you can't
under
even
the
like
fingernails is like a pretty telling sign.
Yeah, it's crazy because it was under her fingernails. So, skipping forward to his trial, Michael allegedly told authorities in Los Angeles County Jail that just because 10 women were killed and his DNA was present, it doesn't mean he murdered anyone. Which this statement led investigators to believe that Michael may have killed up to 10 people, even though he's only currently tied to 4 of the texts we've talked about. So he may be,
if he was the type, it seemed like he was obsessed with doing this. This was like all he was doing was like stalking and getting ready to do this. I wouldn't be shocked if he did more women. Like it would make sense.
Well, I mean, if you look at, there's years that go by between the attacks.
Yeah.
And you look at like the Golden State
I'm
Killer
sure he wasn't
and
just
other
like
serial
being a
killers.
good boy. Yeah. No, he probably just didn't get caught for it.
He really
all.
went like years without killing. If that's like if he's a, true serial killer, chances are he probably did commit more. But a pretrial hearing was held on June 9, 2017 in Los Angeles Superior Court, with his trial scheduled to begin in October 2017. But after delay, his trial began on May 2nd, 2019. And actually, during the trial, Ashton Kutcher was called as a witness and testified about the night he was supposed to pick up Ashley for their date. And unfortunately, there's no clips of him talking, of course. There is the closing arguments and opening statements on YouTube. We'll link it for you if you want to watch them talk about it in a little bit more detail. But Michelle Murphy also testified against Michael during the trial. And during Michelle's testimony, the jury was shown graphic photographs of the deep and bloody gashes from the stabbing. Michelle said that night, she returned from work to her apartment, worked out in the alley next to her home by skipping rope and doing sprints, and after this, she showered and watched some TV before going to bed around 10:30, just a normal night. And then the next thing she knew, she woke up and, quote unquote, there was someone on top of me stabbing me. My arm was being stabbed. It's fucking crazy. His trial lasted 3.5 months, and over 200 people testified during that time. Prosecutors are actively seeking the death penalty, and Michael pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors described Gargiulo as a quote-unquote serial psychosexual thrill killer who engages in the systematic slaughter of beautiful women because he takes pleasure from manipulating, stabbing, and killing his victims.
Ugh,
his MO is to quote-unquote watch, stalk, and hunt down the victim relentlessly as part of his foreplay, and then kill them in blitz-type knife attacks, all for a psychosexual gratification. That's what the prosecutor said.
So it's still, in a sick way, a somewhat sexual thing.
It is, in a very sick way.
Wow.
Because, I mean, and knife attacks are so personal, too. You're like, you have to be right up on somebody. So there's clearly some sort of attraction there for him, which is sick. But then on August 15th, 2019, so literally last week, Michael Gargiulo was convicted on the 2 counts of first-degree murder and the attempted murder, and he either faces the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, Michael's defense attorneys argued that their client suffered from a mental disorder that left him in a fugue state, unable to recall his actions during the Michelle's attack. Basically, like, kind of, I didn't know what I was doing type of thing. And they also said he suffered monstrous abuse as a child that led to monstrous results as an adult, which might be true, but I don't buy that excuse for...
No, it's not an excuse, but it's important to acknowledge it, I think. You know, it's interesting. Whenever we bring up stuff like this with a killer and we talk about them being abused or something bad happening to them that could have led to it, people get like mad, like it's somehow making an excuse for them. It's not. But I think it's really important for us to understand what abuse does to people and how it can affect you long term. There's no excuse for it.
No.
But I think it's important to understand how people end up like this.
Well, we have to
get to this point.
It, right.
Yeah.
To prevent it. You know, if we can figure out how do we stop serial killers from becoming serial killers?
Yeah.
Unless you think they're literally
worldwide.
I mean, some people think they're serial killers out of the womb type of thing, but I don't believe that personally.
I don't know. It's hard.
You think it's
a whole other debate.
Yeah.
We could do a whole podcast just on that.
But prosecutors argued that Michael knew exactly what he was doing in these well-planned attacks. That's the thing. They were super well-planned. The jury found Michael sane at the time of his attacks, which is paving the way for prosecutors to pursue the death penalty in California even. The sentencing phase is expected to begin next month. And once his sentencing is finished in LA, he will actually be extradited back to Illinois to start the trial of his first-degree murder charge for Tricia Pacascio. And if convicted in Illinois, he faces a sentence of 25 years to life, which I think that there's a good possibility he might get the death penalty here. I think it's pretty warranted, to be honest. Like,
well, just the savage way that he talked about it, and even talking to those, people who have said that he said to them, "Yeah, I killed the bitch," and just the way he talked about women, like he clearly had just no remorse for this.
Absolutely no remorse. Even up until the very end of his trial and stuff, he had no remorse or anything like that. Mm-hmm. He looks rather detached and removed from the whole thing, emotionless. So, like somebody like this, can they be rehabilitated? Are they worth keeping in prison for life? Like, it'll be interesting to see what the sentence actually is, as well as like, obviously he's going to get convicted for Tricia's murder. So he'll likely get a life term for that. So it'll be interesting to see what he gets in California. But what's interesting, as just a last little note, unknown to many, Michael has been leading a secret romantic life behind bars, of course. Amber Touchton claims that Michael is her husband. She apparently told Radar Online, "Michael is my husband. It's been a once-in-a-lifetime kind of love."
Congratulations, bitch.
Amber says she was legally married to Michael Gargiulo, but this isn't the case, apparently. Apparently, Michael is trying to arrange a marriage. However, his fiancée was unable to fulfill the legal requirements, which are somewhat cumbersome.
Are they trying to get married? What the fuck?
Dude, I don't understand this. Like, what's wrong with you, woman? Like, why?
Yeah.
Don't you can see what this savage did.
Yeah,
like,
if he was outside of jail, your ass would probably be dead.
Yeah, seriously.
Sorry, that was really harsh to say, but I get so mad when these women find these men in jail and like start dating them, and it's like,
and, like fall
they should
for
not
the
be able
bullshit.
to fall in love after everything that they've done to all these other women.
Yeah,
so gross.
Yeah, it's really terrible.
And I feel like by saying you're in love with this man after knowing what he did to all these women,
discounting what he did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
It's disrespectful to the victims.
It's very disrespectful. Totally agree.
I mean, it's so disrespectful.
Sick.
I'd be pissed if I found out about this.
I have a question that I've always found interesting, and this is so weird, but like, what if your family member, like, try and put yourself in your shoes where like a family member did something so terrible like this? Like, would you still
stand behind him and stuff?
That family member, especially if they were, it'd be one thing if they were like a distant cousin or something, but if it was like, God forbid, like your parent or your grandpa or your brother or your sister or whatever, like, I can't imagine putting myself in those shoes and having to be like, well, obviously what they did is disgusting.
Right.
But they're my family. And I'm wondering if it's like,
I wonder that too, because I mean, it's hard for us to even imagine because I mean, hopefully our parents aren't serial killers.
Well.
So obviously when you think about, oh, well, what if my dad was like a murderer? You'd be shocked because you're like, that's so out of character. That would never happen. But there are people that deal with that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the times though, there's like signs and stuff where you see abusive behavior and
Well, look at I'm thinking of one in particular, the BTK killer.
Yeah.
There's like that.
She didn't forgive him.
No,
I don't think I could forgive.
I think there's an
extent.
I think there's a line that
I think I could maybe like if someone I loved made a mistake and like murdered someone. Not that it was a mistake or like it was like a one thing, but if it's a killer like this, if they hit someone in a car or
even one of these mass shooters like out there, like
I don't think I can forgive this kind of shit though. Like when you just do multiple people and it's so heinous and it's so I don't even know if it was my family member. I don't think I could forgive them.
What if it was like your own kid? Sorry, this is just
that's
like
really
a total
hard.
tangent, but it just is kind of a weird thing to think about.
It is an interesting note to leave you guys with. What do you guys think in the comments? Let us know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a tough.
What do you think if like you found out your brother was like secretly a serial killer?
I mean, I would always love my brother just because he's my brother, but I would not want a relationship with him.
No,
I would not
either.
want to associate.
But there's love, I think. I mean, would you still
on
even have love for them though?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how evil they are.
It's a whole internal
I guess,
battle. Yeah, I guess it really depends on the situation, but that would be really hard.
Yeah, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about it. But we'll go ahead and wrap it up there today, guys. That was Michael Gargiulo. We'll see what happens with the sentencing and with the trial for Tricia. Yeah. And I just hope justice is served.
I think it will be.
I think death penalty is warranted here.
Yeah.
For this guy because what he did was unforgivable. But
truly.
Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Mile Higher Podcast. We will see you guys next time. Stay safe out there.
And stay woke.
See you guys next time.